Now you find out that. Okay. Now let me point out what is this poem is all about actually. Now, when we talk about the poem Geography Lesson, right, it is one of the beautiful poem which is written by Brian Patton, right? So, who has written it? Now, Brian Patton has written it. What this poem is all about? This poem is indicating about uh, the lesson, right? That the speaker's teacher, that the speaker's teacher had taught to the speaker, right? The poet, right, means Brian Patton is the speaker here, and he describes about his teacher, that how his teacher who uh, you know have a kind of a wish, dreams, right, and how his dreams was not succeed, or was not means turned successful. Is not it? That's what the poet stated. Yes or no? Yeah. So is it visible or not to you? Uh, my voice is cracking because of, I think, network. Right. Okay. Let me point out. But your voice is clean to me. Right. Okay. Let me point. So now let's come to the poem, let's come to the poem. So the poem is called as a geography lesson. So what this geography lesson is all about, we will learn that. Right. Now, if you read this, the poem geography lesson, right, where the narrator remembers, narrator remembers whom? Now, his old geography teacher. So, and he remembers his old geography teacher, and also the influence. And the influence means what? How his geography teacher influenced on the narrator's life, right? That's what he pointed, right? So he stated that what? Now, how his geography teacher, right, means who teaches geography lesson to the narrator or the speaker, right? And how he means the narrator remembers his old geography teacher and the influence that his geography teacher put on his life, right? Even the poet also stated that they describe means what? Now, uh, remembering geography teacher and the influence of means of geography teachers towards the narrator's life, right? Describe that. What does it describe? Now describe how their teacher would passionately speak about foreign, passionately speak about colorful place that he dreamed of visiting. That he dreamed of visiting means he wanted to visit. But the question comes out, did he visit? Right? Did he visit? He could not visit. Right? So he left his own colorless home. He left his own, right? Yeah, own colorless home and a job behind, right? So, however, he's close to his apparent retirement. Uh, Close to his apparent retirement means when he was going to leave his job, or when he was going to retire from his job, right? The teacher got ill and presumably died. The teacher got what? Ill, and presumably means what? It is not been mentioned in the poem that the who that the teacher was died. Right? It is presumed. Presumed means what? That's called as assuming. The teacher got ill and assumed that the teacher died, and never got to follow up on his travel plans. never got to follow up on his travel plans, means he did not fulfill the wishes he had made, right? So the wishes he had told his students to fulfill, right? He unable to fulfill that. The narrator means Brian Patton, who admits, what did he admit? Now, the narrator admits to never having understood his teacher's passiveness, right? The narrator admits that what? To never having understood his teacher's passiveness. What do you mean by passiveness? Now that's called as the teacher, right? Who wants or who wishes or who dreams to means go to these are the geographical places, right? Which he makes us or which he teaches us in the schools and pointing to the areas, right? Or pointing to the places, right? And he always suggested the students to go for those of the places, right? But states how his, but states means the narrator states how his sad example means what? Now how the teacher's death before fulfilling his dreams is called as a sad example, right? And that led them to visit all those places, but that led them to visit all those places the teacher never could. It means that the poet Brian Patton who pointed here that what, now looking at the example of a his poet or his teacher, right? What did he do? Now before he means before anything happens to him, what he did, now he fulfilled his own wishes. Who fulfilled his own wishes? Now the poet Brian Patton. So and he proved that the teacher only dreams but not fulfilled, and I, as the student of my teacher, fulfilled dreams and also fulfilled that, right? So example led them to visit all those places that teacher never could in fear of a similar fate. A similar fate means that poet also feels the same kind of a luck, right? He would suffer, so that is why he fulfilled. This is what the poem of about the geography lesson, nothing else, right? So I gave this first part uh, for giving a kind of a knowledge, right? Now let's come to the poem, right? Now how many stanzas this poem, this particular poem consists of, can you tell me? Yes, the poem consists of six stanzas, right? So can you tell me that the rhyming scheme of this poem, rhyming scheme of this poem, how do you find out it is called as the ABCA? Then second stanza is, hmm. After that, hmm. Third stanza. So what do you think that the stanza refers to that what? Wait a minute. I said the stanza refers to what? I'm asked. Not necessary, I think. Hello? Okay. Now, let me point out the idea is stated here. Okay. The idea is stated here. The first stanza stated, our teacher told us one day he would leave and sail across a warm blue sea to places he had only known from maps and all his life had longed to be. Now, if you talk about this, so the poem presents with the ideas that what uh, our teachers told us. Our teacher means who is the teacher? The poet's teacher. So, what did the poet teacher tell? Yes, the who is the means, teacher? The geography teacher. And what did the geography teacher tell? The geography teacher told us one day he would leave. One day he would leave means what? One day he would go to those of the places, right? So those of the places which he had longed to be. What do you mean by longed? Longed means called as a desire. Yeah, desire or wish. Wish means also called as a desire, right? Uh, Desire or wish, right? So the poet here stated that our teacher told us one day he would leave. Where did he would go? Now he would go to those of the places, right, which he taught us. Yes, vehicle. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ah, now the vehicles haven't come. It's actually, than 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 sound. Means my mother was just praying to the God. Okay, so the poet stated that our teacher told us one day he would leave. So where did he would go? Now he would go to those of the places, right? So that he taught us in the means where in the geography lesson, right? And who was that teacher? The teacher was nothing but the geography teacher, right? And sail across a warm blue sea. Sail across means he wanted to go to the abroad, right? So the places where he would get means some kind of a pace, some kind of a enjoyment that he would do, right? So here the term sail across is referring as a nothing but means moving, right? Moving from one place to the other place or moving to the abroad, right? So a warm blue sea to places he had only known from maps. And he talks about those of the places he would go and the places which he had only known from where? Now, through the maps. The maps, like what? You could tell that the maps is referring to geography maps that he taught us, that he showed us, that he made us identify. And all his life, he had longed to be, right? So the things that he had taught us and he wanted to show us or he show us, so those of the places he wanted to go. Am I clear with this? Are, yeah. So in that case, if we look into it, so the first stanza carried with a kind of a rhyming scheme that called as a leave C maps B, right? Leave C maps B. So what do you find out here? Leave is a, C is a B, maps is a C, and B is called as a. So in that case, A B C A. Is it the rhyming scheme that you were talking about? Yeah. Leave C, maps B. Okay, sorry, A B C B. A B C B. Yes, yes, yes. So we can say that what? The rhyming scheme would be what? Leave. Leave is a what? You can say that leave is called as a sound, right? Leave is called as a sound, right? Then after C is called as what? Leave C, right? It's called as a B because leaf produce the sound of a b, right? C produce the sound of a e, right? Maps is the sound of s, and B is producing the sound of E. So C, B, both are called as a BB, right? So, and maps leave cannot be, so that's why in that case ABCB. Is it clear? Okay. So now in that case, what do we draw here? That the story continues like that. The teacher told us one day he would leave and he would go to abroad, a warm blue sea, right? A warm blue sea is referring to spend the time in a foreign countries where he would get some rest, or he would get some peace, right? To places he had only known from the maps, and all his life he had desire to be, right? So he only knew those places from the maps only, but he did not know about those of the places actually, and that's what he wanted to see, right? Now, coming to the next one, what do we find out? The house he lived, what do we find out? The house he lived in, the house he lived in was narrow and gray. The house he lived in was narrow and gray, but in his mind's eyes he could see, right? But in his mind's eye he could see sweet scented jasmine, sweet scented jasmine holding to the walls, and green leaves that burning on an orange tree. Now, what do you draw out of this? Now, again, here also you will find out gray, sea, walls, tree. So, in that case, again, we find out that A, B, C, B. So the idea is stated here. The house he lived in was narrow and gray. So uh, the poet is talking about the means, or reflecting to his lifestyle. Whose lifestyle? The poet's teacher's lifestyle. He stated that means the condition of the poet's teacher was something like a different. He was living in the house which was very narrow and also gray, darkish, right? But in his mind's eye it means that called as a he was living in such a house which was not in a good condition, and which was not in a means that broad, right? Which was also seeming like a dark in color. But in his mind's eye, in his mind's eye means what? The meaning of mind's eye is called as imagination. But in his imagination, the the teacher could see, the teacher could see means he could see, the teacher could see, right, sweet scented jasmine holding to the walls, holding to the walls, and green leaves burning on an orange tree. Now these two are clearly indicating sweet scented jasmine means in the earth or in the world there are the places, right, abroad, right, where you will find out the walls have covered with nothing but the means sweet scented jasmine. So when you enter the house you will find out the kind of a smell of jasmine flowers, right? So which are holding to the walls, which have been decorated in such a beautiful, right? And green leaves burning on an orange tree. You will also find out the places abroad where you will find out that how the summer season, right, or how the ray of the sun means burn the green leaves, right? It means the poet wanted to say that means his teacher, who was living in such a small house, such a narrow house, such a darkish house, but at the same time, in his imagination, he possibly see the places like the places like which existed in abroad, right? The places means that covers with the beautiful smell holding to the walls, and the places where the rays of the sun, right, all the time warm, and also or the weather of the place all the time warm, and also because of the rays of the sun, what happened, it means it fires or it destroys the tree, right? Like you can say, talk about the desert areas, like you talk about the places where you would find out means minimal rain occurs, right? So he was talking about those of the places. Are you getting my point? What did you understand? Can you tell me? Do you understand it or not? Eh, My voice is audible to you? Little bit cracking sometime means what? Okay. So now the next one is called as a, uh, the next one is called as a, uh, yeah. He spoke of the lands. He spoke of the lands he launched to visit. He spoke of the lands he launched to visit, where it was never dry or cold. I could not understand why he never left and shook up the school's strangle hold. Right. So he spoke of the lands, means who spoke of the lands? Now the teacher, the geography teacher who spoke of the places he wished to visit or he desired to visit. So where it was never dry or cold. So those of the places where he would find out nothing but the, means uh, never dry or cold. He would find out the means what do we say, that sunny or called as a warm, right? Where it was never. Hello. See, my internet connection is well. Actually, that's what I wanted to ask you. That whatever you are using, right? Please check your connection properly, because some time ago I completed one of the class and they did not find out any problem in it, right? And that could, uh, some time ago Sonam attended the class, but it did not happen to her. It did not happen to her some time ago. I don't understand, like what kind of a problem you face. Okay, so so he spoke of the lands he desired to visit, where it was never dry or cold, right? So where it was never dry or cold means he found that what the places would be warm. I could not understand, right, why he never left. So the poet here was in a thought that he was giving us the lesson. He was determined, he was lunging, he was wishing to visit the places that he was teaching us in class, right? So, but why did not he visit to those of the places? So that's what the poet did not understand. And shook up the school's triangle hold. Shook up means what? Now, means Shukaf is called as always in the controlled and always in the responsibility of the school, right? So Shukaf is called as means getting involved in the school's responsibility, right? So I could not understand why did not he leave to those of the places and involved in the school's responsibility, right? That's what he stated. Am I clear? Hello. I think it is you are really having a problem of listening or like audible audio system. I did not ask you anything. Okay, so yeah, hello. Can you hear me now? Okay, so he spoke of the lands he launched to visit, where it was never dry or cold. I could not understand why he never left and shook up the school's stranglehold. So the poet here given the idea that he always spoke about the places that he desired to visit or he wished to visit, right? Where it was never dry or cold. and that did not happen, right? Or so where it was never dry or cold. So those are the places where he could enjoy his time. But there was a kind of a confusion. Why did not he go to those places? And why did he involve in the school's responsibility? Why did his school, right, control him, right? Putting him lots of burden or lots of responsibility. That's what he pointed, right? So after that, what happened? After that, then halfway through his final term, then halfway his final term. So what does it mean? Now then halfway through his final term, so he took ill and never returned. Right. So this line is clearly stating that what now then halfway. It means when he was continuing his job, right? So he was about to retire from his service, right? So he was about to retire from his service. How do we understand he was retired from his service? Now, because of the idea presented final term. So this final term is clearly indicating that he was about to retire from his service in the middle of it or halfway. Then halfway through his final term, what happened? He suffered from illness. He suffered from what? Illness. Illness means called as a fever, right? And then after what happened? He never returned. So this particularly assumes that this particularly makes us assume that what he never returned means he might have died. He might have died. So that is why we can say then halfway through his final term, he took ill or he suffered and he never returned means he died. And he never got to that place. And he never got to that place on the map. He never got to that place on the map means the places which he desired, the places which he wanted to go. So now he never went to that places on the map, right? Where the green leaves of the orange trees burned. So where the green leaves of the orange tree burned. So where the green leaves of the orange trees burned means what? The places that makes him, right, or gives him a kind of a means enjoyment, right, as well as means the kind of a places that gives him the happiness or peace and free from the duty or responsibility. He would get the peace, right? But he did not go to that place on uh, that the place which he showed us through the map, right? So this clearly reflecting the idea, this clearly reflecting the idea that what now the author the poet was telling about that he dreamed and he wished, but finally he could not do it. Finally he could not do it. Now, till now you understood? Okay. Now, coming to this one is clearly stating the maps were redrawn. The maps were redrawn on the classroom walls. What do you mean by the maps were redrawn on the classroom walls? Yeah. So you can find out the maps were redrawn on the classroom wall is clearly indicating he left the job, he died, right? And he did not fulfill his wishes. But instead of him, right, another teacher who came to the who came to the school, who taught us, right, and means uh, means that the same lesson was taught, right, again and again and again. The maps were redrawn on the classroom wall, the maps were redrawn on the whiteboard by the other teacher who came new, right? So his name was forgotten. Whose name was forgotten? So the teacher who taught us, right? It means the poet's teacher, Yes, the old geography teacher. His name was forgotten, means the teacher who told us that he would go to those of the places, right? So the poet's teacher's name was forgotten, and it faded away. It disappeared from his from means, student's mind. Whose? Now the teacher's name, right? So but a lesson he never knew he taught is with me to this day. Now this one is a beautiful line which is stating here, but a lesson he never knew. The lesson means what? The lesson was nothing but means to fulfill his wishes, fulfill his dreams, right? But he did not fulfill that, right? He died before that. And that lesson he means taught us that what? Never wait for means fulfilling your wishes. Never wait for fulfilling your wish. So as soon as possible, whatever the wishes you have or had, you try to fulfill that, right? So that's what the poet here stated. But a lesson he never knew, he taught is with me to this day. Means what? The poet stated that I have already means done that. I have already gone through the different places that I have been learnt in my from my geography teacher, right? Whatever my wishes, whatever my desire, that I fulfilled, right? uh, so before means before finding any kind of obstacle. So that's what he pointed by stating this particular point, right? That is called as a geographic lesson. Am I clear? Okay. So this gives us a kind of a idea that how the poet is beautifully recollecting the idea about his teacher and stating about the teacher's some of the means weakening part, and stated that this teacher who teaches us, right? So he did the mistake that he means throughout his life, right? Simply walked for the school, and also means um, took the burden of responsibility, lived in a kind of a house which was not means bright enough, or called as not scented enough, right? He determined to visit different places for his enjoyment, but he did not fulfill that because he kept it for the future, right? He kept it for the future, but that did not come. So that's what it's called as a geography lessons. So hope you understood all.